Right guys, welcome back to the channel. First off, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and ring the bell please. And give this video a thumbs up, it really helps me out an awful lot. If you're watching on Facebook, please give this video a like and share this video to your page or your Facebook profile, because it helps me out an awful lot and more people will be able to see it. I'm trying to grow this on 3 separate platforms. If you're watching this on Twitter, just retweet it with a little message, or you can just retweet it and that'll help my Twitter grow too. I do lives on Mondays and Thursdays at the same time on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and you can watch them in either one of those platforms. But remember guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and ring the bell. It's going to help me out a hell of a lot, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up. So CULLAN MAIS, he has came on the channel and he's going to be talking about his life. If you want to subscribe to his channel, you'll find the link for that in the comment section and description of this video, along with all my social medias. And guys, you do want to follow this podcast. He is a year-old podcast and he's already up to 6, 7, 8,000 subscribers, and it's growing guys. This is the fastest growing podcast in the UK and Ireland, and I'm so happy that CULLAN has chose my podcast to come on to speak to me. So I'm honoured, and let's do him a favour and go and subscribe and smash the bell to his channel, guys. Thank you very much. But CULLAN has sort of an animated past. Heroin, crack, methadone. This guy's been through it all. He was in the gutter and he's made a success of himself. And it's not going to stop here, guys. And he's going to tell us his story of the drugs, being a prolific shoplifter, everything. And hopefully I can sort of dig in and find out a little bit more from what he's already told the other podcasters. That's what my job is. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. It's an absolute honour to have CULLAN on. Peace. CULLAN, what's the crack?
Peace.
What's going on?
All good, mate, all good. Just plugging away like everybody else, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I seen your story there last week that you put up on your own channel. Your missus done a fantastic job, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen that, guys, the link to the Central Club is in the comment section, description of this video. Go and listen to Cullen's story. It's absolutely, there's not even a word for it, to be honest with you. We'll be sharing a few pictures during the podcast, but this, well, how could you explain this? People looking at you now would think this guy is, you know, he's never, you weren't that sort of guy with the drugs and the shoplifting. You just look like a healthy, normal guy. So I suppose where we could start off with this is, looking at your podcast before, I sort of picked out a few things. There was a few things to do with your uncle that would like to know, if you wouldn't mind talking about that. But what's your sort of earliest memory of sort of drugs and things like that? Because you had a really good family. Your family, when you were describing your family, it sounded like my family. But
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so thank you first of all for having me on, mate. I enjoyed your little introduction.
No, it's no problem.
It was nice. Yeah, I think my earliest memories of drugs, I think I was very caged in by my family in the sense of drugs.
Yeah.
You know, I weren't caged in the sense of, you know, hanging out. I always had a good circle of friends, was always out and about. But when it come to cannabis, weed, the boys, you know, out going to raves, taking, like, we all know that starts at a young age. You know,
yeah, it does,
let's not kid ourselves. Kids smoke weed, kids try all sorts at a young age. And my mum and dad were very, very, very strict when it come to come to that. Yeah. I look back now and maybe they were like that because of my uncle, which we will go into. Obviously I didn't talk about it on my one, just out of respect for him and other people who would have saw it, but I'll touch on it on here. But yeah, they were just very against it, and I think that was a massive way of, you know, a fuck you type of thing, where subconsciously, where you just want to take drugs because you want to know what it's like. Why are they telling me no when all my friends are doing it? I want to do it more then. Although my mates are taking it as well. So I think that the first time I ever really tried smoking weed and stuff was when I was in like year 10. So all my friends already tried it, like, you know, on the estate. Some people smoke it when they're in like primary school, year 6 and stuff. But my friends were smoking at year 7, 8, and 9.
Is that
And
like first year high school?
Yeah, comprehension. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like obviously some of my friends, I used to take, so the type of person I was when I went to high school, like I kind of got on with everyone, you know, like I said on the podcast, sport is massive. So you could be in a football team and you could be best mates with the hardest man in the area just because he plays in the same sports as you. You know, you might not hang around with him, but he got your back type of thing. And I used to hang around with everyone. So you could be, you know, the cool kids, you could be the kids on the knock smoking weed, you could be, you know, the pretty boys. It don't matter, the moshers, the emos, it don't matter. Like I would bother with all. But I remember one thing I used to do is if I went and hung around with the boys who'd smoke fags and stuff, I'd take the mick out of them for smoking fags. I'd never go on the knock, you know. I'd always attend school. But I remember one thing, like you know, my parents and other parents used to say is you can mess around in year 7, 8, and 9, but when GCSEs come, year 10 and 11, the last 2 years, knuckle down. And that was kind of a reverse on me. Year 7, 8, and 9, I was that good kid, and I never done anything. But year 10 and 11, the days, you know, the years I was supposed to knuckle down, they were when I started to, you know, start to be corrupt in a way where I started discovering drugs and stuff. And, you know, a massive thing, a part of mine was my mental health. As soon as I started smoking weed, you know, I was hooked from the get-go. You know, mentally, like, you know, I was always wanting to smoke a spliff. I always wanted to buy a draw, always wanted to go half on a draw with the boys. And yeah, like it was like as soon as I had that, it was game over for me. And, you know, the weed, I was really bad. Like some people will say weed's harmless. It's not. Like it, you know, it might be for some people, but there is a percentage of people out there that if they take cannabis, they, you know, it's bad for them. Like,
well, that's, you know, without sort of bringing this about myself, I would be one of those people. If I smoke cannabis, I get very paranoid. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I smoked a wee bit in my time and when I was younger, and it was, what way could you put it? It put me in a different mind frame. Like a lot of my friends can smoke it, they're fine, they're functional. Me, if I smoke it, I start, I don't know, hearing not voices, but you're thinking people are following you and stuff. So
yeah,
I just identified that quite fast. It must be an underlying mental health issue. So I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Something really stood out to me. You were talking about your younger years, right? And it seemed like you were very empathetic towards your family. Like you had a need for your family. You were always running back to the house. Whenever you were going out playing with your friends, you would always run back to your house to make sure that your mom and dad were good. Like you have a good mom and dad. That's, you know, you've made that clear. They're brilliant, excellent parents. But you've always had that, you sort of like an empath. You'd be like an empathetic person towards others. Do you feel though, taking away your uncle and taking away sort of the weed and taking away all of that, do you feel that being sort of an empath sort of made you a bit more susceptible to taking drugs or being addicted to drugs, like getting into the wrong crowd, sort of, you know, you empathize with people, you're around different people, they're smoking weed, you know?
Do you know what? Like, that's a brilliant question, and no one's ever put it to me like that. But one thing I will tell you, like I just said then, I will hang around with anybody. And maybe there's been times in my life where I will walk into a flat, I walk into a room, a house, you know, an environment where I shouldn't be. Any of my friends would have got the fuck out of there just from the judgmental side of it. But I would, the empath side would say, no, these are the right guys. And
yeah.
So I think in a way what you're saying is you know, is credible. And
I picked up on that, and when your wife was asking you these questions, or your girl, I don't know if you're married, but your girl anyway was asking you these questions on the podcast.
Soon to be.
Soon to be, yeah, because I remember at the end of that podcast, she says, "Have you got me a ring?" that was funny. I'm not going to lie to you.
That
was funny. But it did sort of. It was one of the things that I kept thinking about leading up to this podcast. It was like, this guy's he's not a bad guy. He's never wanted to harm anybody. Even in his addiction, he was more so trying to keep everybody happy, but at the same time, he was holding on to this addiction. And those two things, the being an empath and the addiction, sort of came hand in hand. It wasn't like, you know, the way you get some people, they're addicted to drugs and they'll kill for those drugs. You wouldn't have been that type. You maybe would have stole, but you wouldn't have hurt people. Maybe emotionally you hurt people, but you wouldn't have physically hurt people. And I think that was sort of the difference between you and a lot of people, that you were very empathetic. And you've seen that growing, like in your childhood, running back to your mum. You always had this need to go back to your mum and your dad to make sure that we're fine. I feel that maybe was something in you as a kid that could maybe not help you in the drug world. As you say, you would just hang about with people. So do you, in school then, you were into sports, you were into all those things, you were fine, things were looking up, you were doing your GCSEs. What age were you whenever you first took your first hard drug?
I was 17, just coming into my 18th birth, 18th year, when I took my, like, what do you class as hard drugs though? That's
well, like ecstasy, cocaine.
Oh right, yeah.
Heroin, crack cocaine.
Yeah. Ecstasy, cocaine, these type of things where I'm from are just like normal. Kids take that, kids try it. Yeah, it's probably everywhere in the UK right now, isn't it? But I was 16, 17, just finished school, don't know what I want to do. The pressures of, you're out of school now, what do? You was the joker of the class, you fucked up year 10 and 11, and you just don't know what you want to do. It's I think being in high school is a very, it's a pressurizing thing. I think personally they should keep kids in school till 19, 20, like I really do, because I'm 30 now. I'm just finding out what I want to do with my life. If I never took drugs,
do you think it's so much keeping them in school, or maybe prolonging sort of opportunities right up maybe I don't know, until you're about 25 to stay in school for free? Because I think do you know what I mean? Because I always find there's a lot of people that are late bloomers. I'm a late bloomer, but there's some people that bloom whenever they're 13. They know what they want to do.
Maybe there could be some sort of option. Maybe if you know what you want to do and you're doing it, you can go. But I think there should be something there. Youth clubs are massive. They've knocked all the youth clubs, or they closed all the youth clubs where I am now, and it's definitely feeling the effects of it. But I just think there should have been. We have this argument all the time with people. You probably talk about, like, why don't in school they teach people how to set a bank account, rent, get a mortgage, the real ways of life, not,
Do you feel if you were taught
teach the Roman Empire?
Yeah, do you feel if you were taught these things, maybe about these things, you maybe wouldn't have swayed into that crowd? Maybe you found life a wee bit overwhelming when you came out of school.
I don't know if I would have ever not took drugs, but I do know it would have definitely eased my mind a bit more on searching out for things, because like I said, I was always a baby. My mum and dad done everything for me, and when you turn 17, 18, like all my friends are 16, 17 are getting my driving test. I'm I'm doing my lessons now. I wouldn't have had a clue. I would never have drove then, just because I was I just weren't ready for that. Like I just I definitely think it would have helped me. It's a tough one. It's a very tough one. But going back to 17, 18-year-olds now who are leaving school, the pressure's on them. They got kids now who are millionaires at their age from NFTs, Bitcoin, this type of stuff. Kids are becoming celebrities and multimillionaires right now. So if you think it was pressures for us, can you imagine what the pressures are for some kids in high school now?
I couldn't imagine it, honestly. I see if half the stuff was recorded whenever I was having my time, having a good time. It would be terrible. I couldn't imagine what it's like to just not be able to go out and not be recorded, or have that pressure to look a certain way, or I don't know, just to be a millionaire. Because it seems like there's a lot of kids these days, as you say, that are into all this type of stuff, NFTs, social media, they're making a lot of money off it. Now, it's good opportunities, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's probably leading to a lot of badness down the road when they hit their 40s. So what was the extent to your drug habit whenever you started taking heroin and crack? What was the extent of it? What was your day-to-day routine with when taking that?
So I always put it into two separate times.
Yeah.
First 5 years and the second half. The first 5 years was literally me day to day, just making sure I was okay. It was the same in the latter, but the latter, like, I was money wasn't an issue.
Mm-hmm.
The first 5 years was probably the worst because, you're finding you're 19, you're working in certain jobs. I always had some sort of job, whether it was like a Christmas temp or whether I was working in a warehouse or I was working in the kitchens. I always tried to work, but I never ever went to college or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go back quickly about how, like, for the people who don't know, just for how I got onto the drug. So in a nutshell, I used to hang on with all my mates. I slept with my best mate's girlfriend. Now, they weren't together, but they were like childhood, growing up in high school. They it was like an unsaid, like, thing. That was my girl type of thing. And me being 17, thinking I'm the kiddie and whatever, I slept with her, and it was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. We're kids at the end of the day, but he was my best mate, and that stopped me hanging around with my mates because we all hung around in the same crowd. So if I tried to hang around with any of the boys, like, he'd be there. So that was that. And then my uncle. So I didn't say it on the other one. So my uncle, he went to prison when he was 15. 15, he went to prison. He killed a little girl. Death by dangerous drive. When he was younger and in the paper, they people would call him a kiddie killer. But back in 1996, joyriding was.
The first question pops into my head. Sorry to interrupt you, but the first question pops up: Was he sober when this happened? It was just a freak accident?
So they say he was drunk. Joyriding in the 90s was like a thing people done all over the UK again. Cars were easy to steal. You smash and grabbing. That was how people made their money. There was no CCTV. Police didn't have T5s and these fast cars. They were, so it was a thing back then. And he was, I hear the story that he didn't drive. There was more in the car, but he's the only one who stayed there when it happened. And so he went to prison when he was 15 for that. And he done, at the time, you'd have to do 3/4. It was never like half of the sentence you had to do. So I think they give him like 8 years, and he done the 8. I think he done the 8 years, or they give him 10. He done 8. It was something like that. But it was massive. It was all over the papers and in the news of the world, the Sun. And growing up in school and stuff, like, teachers used to like target me for being a mace. I had it quite hard in school.
Wow.
But so sorry. So like, in this life we live, it don't matter if they ain't in for rape, if you're not in for anything like paedophilia, stuff like that. We look up to people who go to prison. We do. It's a fact. Oh, he's hard. He is. Oh, he done life in prison. Look at Sean Atwood's podcast. Look at these podcasts where they interview these people. People look up to these people on YouTube because they've killed someone or they've done, these robbery. It's just the way of life we live in. People look up to. Yeah. It's a very sad reality, but it is. So what happened was, like, growing up, like, I'd go and visit my uncle, Exeter prison, Portland, all over the country. And I think subliminally or subconsciously, I looked up to him. So, in my teen years, when he was due to get out then, I'm seeing him, he's massive, he's telling me these stories of prison and stuff. And, I looked up to him. And when he got out of prison, it was like the first time ever, obviously with all the friends and the connections he built in jail. He come out, he was this big guy, he was selling drugs, class A's, he was robbing people, he was, I used to see him with guns. It was the first time I seen like a gang of boys from London in Cardiff that my uncles brought down. And, I looked up to this guy like he was this serious guy. They always had money and this, that, and whatever. And So that is how I got, you know, when you said about who my uncle was and stuff, that is how I got into this life. Basically, he came out of prison. I stopped hanging around with my best mate, all my friends, started hanging around with him. And then the mental health in the background was kind of how, because I said, you know, if you hang around with 4 burglars, you're going to be the 5th burglar. If you hang around with 4 drug dealers, you will be the 5th drug dealer.
Tell me your friends and I'll show you who you are. Basically, it's just an old saying, tell me your friends and I'll show you who you are. It's just the way life is.
Yeah. And I was hanging around with those people on a daily basis, running around, you know, oh, you are Cullen, run that to the bus stop, and I, you know, sell a couple of drugs and whatever else, and you know, hold this for us, and I'd hold that for them, and I used to go on trips with him, and you know, pick up money and stuff like that, and you know, I'd see the foil. You know, he was smoking the foil with, you know, the tube in his mouth, and I'd see the asthma pump with the pipe, and but then he'd still smoke weed and stuff. But this was at a transition in my life where I couldn't smoke weed no more. Same as you. I abused it that much at the beginning that towards like a year into it, every time I'd smoke a spliff, I'd be paranoid, like really, really bad, anxious. And in the mix of all the cocaine use and stuff like that with all my friends, like that was acceptable. So after, like, you know, hanging around with these people, I'm starting to be intrigued with what these drugs do, you know? And it was just a snowball effect. And eventually I started smoking. What I used to do is I was smoking spliffs of weed with heroin laced in them. And the reason why I think I did, it's not just hanging around with these on a day-to-day basis, but these don't look like your typical heroin addicts. They don't look, you know, they've got a gold chain on, they've got nice trainers on, they've got money on the table. You know, I was hanging around with a crowd of people when people who were smoking heroin at that time, they didn't look like your typical addict, like on the streets, your stereotypical junkie.
Do you think?
You know?
Do you think if they were the stereotypical junkie, maybe that would have sort of diverted you away from doing it?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. You know, as much as I'm an empath, and you know, I see everyone the same. I definitely would have, but I didn't see that. I didn't see any of that.
But maybe that's what it is. It's, you see, it's everything's visual with people, right? And obviously, if you want to hear the full story broke down with Cullen's girl, future wife, go on. I've left the link for that in the description. But I just wanted to dig a wee bit here. Like it's like they've glorified it. They've got the gold chains. It's like seeing a present, a Christmas Day present. It's sitting there. It looks great, but really inside it's rotten. The core's rotten. These group of people, they're rotten, and it's not a good group to be involved with. It's like sort of, I don't mean to say it, it's sort of like spraying gold on shit. It's, you know, it's not a good thing. You know what I mean? But as I say, but deep down inside, this is the group that you're getting involved with. And do you think then, was your uncle, was he allowing you to smoke heroin, or was he giving you heroin? Was he supplying you with heroin?
So at the beginning, it was like, if I ever see you touch this, I'll fucking kill you. I'll break your legs. Don't ever touch this. That type of stuff. You know, what's this? What's this? You know, and I'm asking, can I try it? Now, this is the other thing as well, where we need educating, because I didn't know. I think a lot of people know now, but at the time I didn't know. I knew what heroin was when I was in primary school. I knew what crack cocaine was. We all know, oh, you're a heroin. You're you know.
Yeah.
It's the stereotypical things we know, yeah? But I thought heroin addicts were people on the streets who had no teeth. They smelled pretty bad. They had no clothes. And they use needles to inject. That's what I thought.
That's movies, so the movies do that to us.
Hollywood, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So I'm seeing this guy who's smoking something on a bit of foil. You know, he's what's the word? He's working. He's going around about his daily life like everything's okay. His eyes in the back of his head. It's like, so. You know, at the beginning, like, you know, I'd ask him, what's this now? And he wouldn't even say what it was. He would just say, like, if I ever see you take this, you know, I'll break your fucking legs. And if I know anyone who does give it to you, I'll kill him. That type of stuff. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then the first time I ever smoked it, I was around a gang of people who he knew, but he weren't there. And they were smoking crack. I knew about crack anyway because people in my area who weren't in this crowd were smoking crack. On a Saturday night, they'd go to the rugby, play rugby for the youth. Then they'd have a drink in the night. They'd buy a couple of bags, but in the night, some of them might smoke it as crack. Now, like you're probably thinking, well, really, but where I live, like a lot of people smoke crack. It's just a normal thing. It's crazy.
Crack cocaine is cocaine, the compound of cocaine sort of crystallized to smoke, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can wash it with all sorts, bicarb, pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would say it's probably the cleanest way to do it because you're washing out all the shit out of it. Do you know what I mean? But you're smoking it. It's just cocaine, really. But like, I was going to say, like, my ex I was with, she was from like Bristol, and she said, I've been to London, I've lived in Bristol, I've lived, many places, but I've never been to a place like Cardiff where normal people think it's okay to smoke crack.
Is that how bad it is? Is that how bad it is with the crack?
Normal, like, I think it's probably everywhere, right? But we don't, like, people don't open up to it. There's a lot of closet smokers everywhere, but crack cocaine is quite normal in Cardiff. I'd say 50-60% of people who sniff cocaine, recreational, will smoke crack as well. And the normal people, they work Monday to Friday, they're not addicted to it. They might go on a few benders, but that's about it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, like crack cocaine sort of portrayed to us like through the movie New Jack City, where I'm sure you've watched it, where the crack comes into New York, I think it is, or New Jersey.
Yeah, it ruins them, don't it? Yeah.
But it's the betrayal of that. But what people don't realize, there's thousands of functional addicts out there that you wouldn't even know that's taking it, and they're going to jobs, they're doing their day-to-day thing, but they're smoking crack of a weekend. Do you think, just a side question, do you think that it's possible, or do you think I'll word this better, do you think it would be good to legalize all drugs and get them away off the streets and put them in the shops, or do you think that's a bad idea?
I think they should. I think success can always be replicated, and you've just got to look at places like Portugal, and it's working. It's working. Again, same as me being suppressed. If anyone, I get a lot of people who will come up to me and contact me, parents of kids who are going off the rails, and they'll tell me, Cullen, can you speak to my kid? He's taking this, he's taking that. And I'll always tell them, don't suffocate him, don't scare him off from taking the cannabis, the ecstasy on a night out. Don't. Because what happened to me is, I think that don't walk on the grass type of thing we shouldn't be doing, because you'll always walk on the grass, and it's the taboo.
It drives you to it. You want to do it more. It's like it's a rebel.
Listen, if Mark Drakeford or if Boris Johnson was selling crack cocaine legit, we'd be like, oh, I don't want none of that. It's fucking Boris. It's just straight away, like, it's that thing.
Yeah, of course. But it's like, obviously everybody grows up different, but whenever you were talking about your childhood, and I know we're moving on from your childhood, but just to touch on it a little bit, just for one last second, I remember I came back to my mum's, and my mum and dad, and I was smoking dope. It was brown, and I came back and my eyes were hanging out of my head, and I remember my mum sort of looking at me and going and saying to my dad, look at him, he's off his nut. He's off his nut. And I was off my nut, but it was just dope. And I remember that was my first injection of paranoia. I wasn't paranoid previous to smoking it, but then I got very paranoid because, and I'm not blaming them, because it was my own fault.
We've all been there, Ron, when you get
grilled, what I mean?
And you're like,
I used to get like eye drops, and it never made a difference. I looked like
spray yourself, chewing gum, all that.
Well, because it was the dope. I used to wear tracksuit bottoms, smoking trousers, and I used to drop it. Yeah, and it just burnt everywhere, just hot rocks everywhere. It was terrible. Looking back, I was an absolute dickhead. Like, but I mean,
2 secs, Ron.
Thanks. But we're going to get into Cullen's story here. That's is the start of his life, but coming into the middle of his addiction, it gets pretty bad. And I'm going to be sharing some pictures, before and after of Cullen, and they're pretty graphic. They're pretty graphic, guys. You wouldn't believe what Cullen sort of looked like before.
Very rude to me. Sorry.
No, you're 100% fine. Listen, I'm not Joe Rogan. You can do whatever you want. You can drink away if you want. It doesn't matter to me. No, I'm just, I was just saying there that, do you think that a lot of the paranoia that comes with cannabis and weed maybe comes from the stigma around it itself? Like, a lot of my friends were allowed to smoke it and they didn't have the same issues that I had. Now, maybe it was just an underlying mental health condition, but I do feel the paranoia that I had, the sort of, you shouldn't be doing this, and it sort of drove me to do it more. And then I was hiding it, coming back. It gave me this paranoia. Was that the same with you?
I think the actual drug itself, or the THC or whatever it is, there's something in it that makes you paranoid, definitely. But you are right. When I started smoking heroin, you okay, love? Okay. Left an Apple Pencil on the chair. Great. So with I did be careful what I said.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah. Shut that door, love, all right?
I just remembered. It was like this Apple Pen. I remembered what it said.
Good night, love.
A dad never stops.
No. So basically with heroin, at the beginning when I went, like, no one knew about it, I'd smoke it and like, yeah, I was like, what the fuck? I'm actually smoking heroin. I get paranoid, like, what is my life coming to? That was like the only time in my life when I think, like, what is my life coming to? The beginning when I used to smoke heroin. But as a lot of people know, opiates is it suppresses your thoughts. So smoking it don't bother you. So the fact that at the beginning, when it was most effective, I was paranoid, it is because of, you shouldn't be doing this type of thing. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Like, there's another thing I want to say too, and while we're going to get into sort of the middle of your addiction, I just want to touch on this here. The fact that so many people are on opioids, it's not just heroin. You've got cocodamols, diazepam. I'm just going to say it how it is. When you take these here, they make you feel absolutely great. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. I haven't took heroin, but I've taken cocodamols, I've taken opioids, and it's absolutely brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean,
you have to be careful.
You have to be really careful, because the reality, when you take these things, the reality it gives you is better than the reality that you live in. And it's sort of, certain people with an addictive personality can just want to be in that reality all the time. And then it comes to a point where taking 6 of these won't even do anything to you. And then
it'll just make you feel better.
Yes, and they just, not even, sometimes they make you feel worse.
No, you're right.
And then you get on the street heroin. A lot of people start off that way.
Yeah.
Do you think with your heroin addiction and your crack addiction, like, they're two separate drugs? One's a stimulant and one's a suppressant. So do you think that you were taking the heroin to sort of numb the pain, and the crack was to maybe heighten you for, like, parties and stuff?
Yeah. So the reason I first started smoking heroin, the first time I tried heroin, was coming down from crack cocaine. But I can't smoke crack cocaine without heroin now, because just with my anxiety and everything, when I smoke crack, I really, when they say about pranging out, like that word, you prang out, like the Streets, the song, you're pranging out, that song, like that is what happens to people, and you get the curtain twitcher, you get all that type of shit, and I've done all that. So I'd still smoke it though. It's crazy. So what I was doing eventually, I'd smoke the opiates to tackle all my mental health, take away all my problems.
Did it work? Did it work with your mental health?
Yeah. To an extent, you're still suppressing. Remember, you're not like tackling nothing. So, but it did, and it was fast. It was effective. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Towards towards the end, I was just smoking to cover my habit. And then your mental health will pop through it, but you still, you're taking it now to get better. But at the beginning, yeah, definitely it helped. But a lot of people, they just come hand in hand, crack and heroin. You go to most heroin dealers, they sell the white and the bees. It's just a known cocktail. You have people then who will inject. People who inject, they do snowballs. And that's crack cocaine and heroin in a injection. They have the dig. They get the euphoric rush off the crack, and then eventually 10, 15 minutes later, it just hits them and they come down. And they're like renowned cocktails. But
did you ever do them?
I never done it. And I was just too scared. I was too scared of the needles. I tried injecting once. I'll go on to that now. Let me just say, so I used to look at it like heroin was my everyday. I have to do my heroin. That's me. But then the crack cocaine was like a night out for me. Like that was my going for the drink. I'm having a pint tonight. Do you know what I mean? But after a while, I'd be using it every night anyway, you know. And as an addict, you know, Monday and Saturday are the same days, 12 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock at the night at the same times. It's just like, it's just mad. But with the injecting, now I think I'm very lucky with this. So I already had I was like, been smoking heroin all day. I'm not clucking. The only times you'd really cluck is in the morning when you wake up, or if you've just had a sleep. You wake up. My body used to just go into some automatic detox. I could be smoking a 3.5 of heroin all day. I could go to sleep for an hour. I'd wake up clucking. Just
so
weird.
clucking is withdrawn from the heroin or the drugs. Yeah.
So the most times you'd withdraw would be like in the mornings. You wake up, you need a boot, you know, and yeah, I used to, you know, smoke all day. So there was this one time I was in a flat with a couple of lads, and they had loads of needles, they had loads of pins and whatever. And I don't know why. I just wanted to try it. I wanted to see what it done. And I injected, and they were looking at me and they were like, "What do you reckon? What do you reckon?" And I was like, I don't feel it. I don't know. I think the reason was where I was already full of gear. If I'd done that first thing in the morning, I would have felt it and I would have appreciated it. And maybe that would have got me hooked on injecting. But where I tried it with my body full of opiates and, you know, it didn't really do much, I just didn't bother again. And like I said, injecting for me was like something I didn't like doing anyway. So I was pretty lucky there. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's like smoking a cigarette in the morning, right? You get the nicotine rush, but if you're smoking all day, comes like 6 o'clock at night and you have a cigarette, you're not going to get that nicotine rush. So I suppose it's the same with everything, isn't it? You know,
of course.
If your body's full of whatever, and you add to it, even if it's through a different means, it's not going to affect you like you've just took a massive hit. Do you know what I mean? Like a fresh hit. And it's really interesting just you describing that. Do you know what I mean? Like you can see it in your eyes that you're reliving those moments in those places. I was watching that in the podcast you done, and it's like you can notice with some people that they're just reliving those moments when they're taking it. And what I will actually do is, before we move on to the next part, is actually, if you wouldn't mind if I shared some photos to the screen. Hopefully I can get them up here. They're still here.
So I'll come through it, is it?
Yeah. So I'm gonna show the one before. This is what Colin, if you don't mind me, Colin, looked like before. I'll just take us off the screen. Doesn't really make a difference. But as you can see, you were very skinny. There's spots. How much did you weigh there?
I think I weighed about 14, 15 stone. I'm 6'2", so
yeah,
I'm still tall, but yeah, I was about 15 stone. I'm 22 stone now. Do you know what I mean?
Like, but there's no, you can tell, like, it's the thing about weight is some people look better with weight on them. You can tell.
I look terrible. Yeah.
You look very withdrawn. Your skin, you can tell. Is this at the end, or is this?
I'll just break it. I'll break it down to you. So this is, I'd say 2016, 2017. It's not the end. No, it's not the end. And the worrying thing is, I put weight on towards the end a bit more. Like I was still bad. But this is like one of the worst. So basically, this was a video that my mother filmed of me. So I think I was like, looking to go to jail. I had a court date over my head. I was really bad. So I've got all scabs all on my legs, on my chest, on my arms. That's from picking, that is from smoking crack and thinking that it's like things crawling on my body. And what I used to do a lot of was pick. I'd even pick other people. Like I'd say, "Oh, let me pick your nose," like just crazy. And that was the effect of the crack and heroin had on me. Because heroin as well, it makes you really itchy. So I'd smoke crack and I'd think I had spots. Then when I smoked the gear, because it didn't hurt, I'd squeeze the life out of me. I still got scars all over my body. I don't know if you can see, like, it looks like a lighter one there. I got big ones all over, like that, over my chest and stuff. I don't know if you can see them.
But you were very lucky with your face, because you don't see it have any blemishes or any
So what I
scars on
used,
your face.
yeah, what I used to do was that was my money shot. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but like this is the time now where I was a professional blagger. This is what I was named in the paper as a professional blagger. So what I used to do was at this time is this is before I discovered prison and shot. I hadn't even been in prison at this time. I don't think, and I might have. Sorry, I might have. But like, this was the time where before like shoplifting became like a proper thing for me. This is what I used to do. I used to go around to different train stations, different public centres, all in South Wales, all in Southwest England, Bristol, Bath, places like that, very big cities. And I used to pretend I was a student lost. So I made sure I'd always wear like long barber coats, smart jackets, you know, cover my face. Sometimes I wear gloves if I had scabs. But here, that was like baby face. And I know I look rough, but
No, you can tell. I know what you're saying. You can tell that if that's probably you at a bad time there, but you could tell if you're covered up and you've maybe had a shower and you're feeling a bit better, you're probably looking a bit better, so you can't really notice what.
Yeah, look, I still got the same teeth, like they're a bit yellow, but I tried to look after myself, you know, with my OCD as well. Like when I was younger, I'd go through like a pack of wet wipes in a day. I'd have 4 baths a day, you know, pots of cream. I'd always try and, like, you know, I know it don't look it there, but I'd always try and, you know, look after myself. And so I used to go around and blag a lot of people. What I used to do when I was doing a lot of walking, so in the nights, I'd make my money, I'd score, go home, start smoking, then I'd start picking. And then when I go out the next day and do all my walking around these town centres, when, you know, overnight they would like try and close up these scabs. Then when I'm walking all day and I'm sweating, they were just like getting really moistured and stuff. And then in the night, it's like sometimes, you know, if you've got like a scab or something and you go in a bath and the steam, like if you touch it, it'll just seep in it. And that's what I do. I'd go back out and then I'd start opening it up again and they would never heal. You know, you can imagine all the sweat and stuff. And it was a horrible time. But what happened there? Clara's saying I got nice teeth. Shut up. What happened there is, just for the context, I haven't wanted to put this out because, like, I'm pretty open with everything I do, my photos, everything. But in this one, my nan's in there who's passed away now. She never saw me clean, and she really wanted me to be clean. And my dad is like I've never seen my dad like this before or after. The way he shouted, my mum, they're all really bad. So what happened was, I was due to go, it was a Sunday, and on the Monday I was going into drug services. They were going to put me on a Subutex script. Now, to be on a Subutex prescription, you have to be withdrawing from heroin if you're not coming off methadone. If you're on a methadone script and you go into Subutex, you've got to go down to 30 mil, which is the lowest dose, and then go over to Subutex, because Subutex is a blocker if you use it properly. So I had to be withdrawing. Now, I just had a boot. I just had a bag in the morning, and I wake up, my nan's there. It's about, I think it's like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the video, it says. And it's Wimbledon. Wimbledon's on in the background. It was like 2015, 16. And I says to my mum, and I said, I'm going out. I'm going with my friends. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, I am. They were like, no, you're not. You're not going out because tomorrow you've got to go to this place and you've got to be withdrawing. You've had a smoke, now you're fine. But I wanted to go back out and get more. And it's just a massive, massive argument which gets filmed and everything. And that bit is me telling my mum to get the fucking phone out of my face. I think I actually did go and use that day as well, and we never got on the script. But there's loads like that. You know what I mean?
Hence the professional blagging. You were always trying to sort of blag your way into a scenario where you can get to your heroin or your
every time, like I say, like every time I went to rehab, every time I tried to get on a script, every time I went up to my nan's in England to get clean, it was for other people. It was never for me. and that's you got to want it yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, you have to do it for yourself. You have to have that in you to sort of, if somebody else is telling you to do something, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You have to come to a stage in your life. It doesn't matter if it's drugs, whatever, work, maybe it's something that you want in life, maybe it could be anything, but you have to really want to do something to get it done. And there's nobody else that can tell you.
But it's like I say as well, though. It's like you say, though. Like I wanted the pain to stop for my parents. It's not like they wanted me, and that was the reason I went to these rehabs, because I wanted to stop the pain for them. But subliminally, I just weren't ready. Like I weren't ready. I didn't have enough. And people used to say that all the time. You've got years left in you. I remember my first prison
sentence. The root cause of you, though. The root cause of what's the pain inside you, because there was the pain that you were inflicting on everybody else, but you weren't getting to the root cause with the pain inside you. You weren't getting to what was making you do these things. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point. What I'm saying, it was something in you that made you go, do you know what? I have to stop this now.
Well, I remember like a psychiatrist before said, like, I think he was in prison, and he was like, yeah, you've got to tackle the root. There's got to be something. There's got to be something. And I was like, fuck off about the root cause. What are you on about? But when I actually looked at it in deep there, like it's got me at peace.
Yeah.
And I want to say this to the viewers. When they say there's a root cause, I always thought the root cause was, someone getting abused, someone getting their sister getting killed. There has to be something big. There's got to be a big reason. There's got to be a big root of why you are the way you are. It could be the slightest of things. You've just got to address it. You've got to find out what it is and address it. Because some people would say, well, you slept with your best mate's missus. Oh, that's fuck all. What? Because you got ADHD? You think, that's fuck all. What? Because you hung around with your uncle? That's like they're big things when you put them together. They're big, and they all played their part.
But they're massive things if you're an empath. So if you're very empathetic towards people, and just say you slept with your best mate's missus, okay,
killer.
At the time you're working on impulse, right? Because you're a bloke. But when it's all said and done, now you're left with the after effects of being very empathetic towards your mate, and it's destroying you inside. So it may be a very small thing. Yeah, it killed you inside. So to eradicate that, you need it's either alcohol, drugs, whatever, maybe a sex addiction, something else to sort of supplement the feelings that you're having. And then on top of that, you've got your uncle. So there's one thing. You were quite a prolific, hope you don't mind me saying, shoplifter. You talked about this in the other podcast.
The worst.
I mean, it's a skill. It's a skill that, regardless of what people want to say about it, it's an actual skill, because to go into a shop to take something and to have the confidence to do that, at the end of the day, look at the positives. It's a skill that you can use. Were you always like that, or was it just because of the drugs that made you a shoplifter?
The drugs, I think, made me a shoplifter, but I became a good one. So let me just put it into like perspective for people. I was pretty good, because what happened was, my final time I got clean, and I wanted to like do everything to help. I wanted to do courses and stuff. I've done something that's called restorative justice. Now, restorative justice is normally with people who either attack a victim. They meet the victim. So normally it could be like a fight in town and someone got beat up, and then the person who went to prison would meet the victim. Or you could, even murder, and you do restorative justice with the family, Well, I've done restorative justice with the cooperative, the cooperatives, the shops. Well, I done a restorative justice with 4 area managers, of cooperatives, and they basically were asking for my advice, and I actually done another call after the restorative justice. Besides that, because I went on there just to apologize, but I done one besides that to like help them tackle shoplifting. So they were asking me for pointers and what you think we can do.
While you were shoplifting?
This was after all the shoplifting.
Right, yeah.
So it was kind of like, like Catch Me If You Can with DiCaprio at the end.
Yeah.
He works with the FBI to help other fraudsters.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
get
like,
you.
yeah. So, yeah, it was, you know, it would be a great
But
job to
what?
do full time, but
But is there a thing to it though? Just on a side note, is there a
just
like?
little things like, you know, like make sure your till's by your door and not on the other side, you know, blind spots, what
Yeah.
you put on shop floors. So the cooperative for me was a big one because they would always put their alcohol on shop floors.
Mhm.
That now was down from management of people who, we need alcohol on the floor to get people tempted to buy them. But at the same time, you've got shoplifters taking them. So it
Yeah.
was just little things like that. The obvious. I said, listen, every co-op I go in, the tills are nowhere near the doors. I know where all your blind spots are in every co-op.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, stuff like that. You need to put products off the floor. You need to put dummy products on and stuff like that. So there is things that can be done, but you're right. There's just, yeah, shoplifting.
Did
But
you make lots of money from shoplifting, or was it? I heard you say you would steal gifts for your family and stuff. Like you had this need to always repay them or thank them, and you would steal gifts from them. Or was it just the gifts you were taking, or was it more so stealing to feed your addiction? Because you worked too throughout your addiction. This is the thing people don't realize. You actually worked through your addiction. Um, was that a thing that you done to gain extra money?
yeah, well, I always worked at the beginning half when I didn't know how to make money
Mm-hmm.
unlegit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the you know, like the one job I had, I used to work for the Riva Trains, which is the bit like Transport for Wales now they are, but Arriva were massive, and I was on a TV program, the School of Hard Knocks, which is on Sky Sports, it's a rugby program, and through that I got a job with Arriva. So I always try to work within jobs, but yeah, back to the shoplifting. Like I always wanted to keep my parents happy or do anything for them to get off my back. So like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I cut the grass just so they wouldn't kick off for a day about me on drugs, or
Yeah.
maybe they give me a couple of quid, like, but they'd be alright. Like if I tidy the house, over the house, do the dishes, they'll make sure you know, when I go home tonight, they won't kick off, or in the morning they won't kick off. And yeah, at Christmas times, I used to come back with loads of clothes, you know, perfumes and stuff. But you know, they were never happy with them because they just wanted their son back. But yeah, I made a lot of money. I've seen someone put on in the chat about fuck golf coming home. He's from Wales. He's on about batteries and fucking coffee. But yeah, like it is what it is. I used to steal meat. I'd steal anything. Like, you know, it were in the week in week out thing I'd done. Like I had like preferences. So alcohol was a big seller for me. Clothes, I was pretty good because I used to have the magnets, the Desagas. But I'd be lying if I never said that. You know, one day I woke up late and I couldn't go out of the city, so I'd go to one of the local shops and nick joints of meat. That is what you
Mm-hmm.
do when you're desperate. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of what I, you know, I'm ashamed of it, but I'm proud of who I am, and you know, I'm glad I went through that to make me the better person I am now. But if you want to talk numbers and stuff, like when I, like, you know, for the last 2-3 years of my life, you know, on a day to day, I was making anything between £250 to £1,000 a day, no less than that. Like, you know, if it was a desperate day where I just, you know, I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and there was only a couple of hours left in the day, I'd probably make 70 quid or 100 quid just to make sure I've got 3 of each, which is 3 heroin, 3 crack, you know. But yeah, like every day I was out raising minimum 250 to £1,000, spending, you know, it all on drugs. So, you know, you know, you've just gone and sold all your bits. You know, you've got like say 800 quid, you take 400, give your driver 400, you go and score, you're left with like 150 quid. I'm going to keep that in my pocket. You smoke, you know, you buy a pack of 10, 20 fags, a couple of tinnies, something to eat, you're left with 125 quid. At 11 o'clock at night, all your drugs are gone. That 125 quid is going back on drugs. Then in the morning when you go home, you wake up, you're asking your mum for a cigarette. Like it don't matter how much money I made, it was always going on drugs. And
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. The amount of money that was just cycling through.
yeah, you know, and the best thing with dealers and stuff, you would spend loads. Like there was the odd dealer I'd go to who would give me bits on tick, but you never tick a heroin addict. You never tick a crack user. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sometimes I, you know, with me, like there were certain dealers in the mornings before I go raising, they let me come and meet. They give me a bag to get me better because they knew later that night they were getting like 400 or 500 quid. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But people say all the time, they're like, Cullen, you be a millionaire right now. Like
Yeah.
you make more than
I'm
me as a
thinking
drug
that.
dealer. But I always say, no, I wouldn't. Because I wouldn't steal if I weren't on drugs.
Yeah.
Every prison sentence, every time I got arrested was drug related. The police officers used to say, like, you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Like, you've got a great family. Like, it was always drug related.
Well,
Always drug related.
that leads us into a different subject now. So you're stealing. You're quite a good sort of thief. I'm not going to lie to you. What you're saying there,
Well,
that's a
yeah.
skill.
Look. People would say to me like, "Oh, well, you ain't that good because you got arrested." But you got to weigh it up. Like, I was stealing 365 days a year. I'm talking like on a Sunday. Sometimes I might, make enough on a Friday to last me till the Monday. But more than likely, I was spending throughout, and every day I was shoplifting probably once a month when I get my ESA if I was on the benefits. I then, not go shoplifting, but 9 times out of 10, even when I got my ESA, by the time it's the night time, I'm out trying to make money because I've used my benefits money in a day. So 365 days a year, it is 365 days a year, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. I
Yeah,
was thinking about myself.
I was all them, like, I'd go to prison once maybe in the year. So I got caught once. And when I get caught, they might have me for like 8 offences from that one day. So they might catch you for the one day and they know that they'll clock then that you've been to these other shops on that day and they'll tie you in like that. But, for the 10 times I went to prison in my time, the money I got away with, the times I got away with is just paramount, And I think the cooperative.
100%. You're looking at that there. Like, sorry, just to butt in. But you're looking at 365 days a year, and maybe you're getting caught once or twice a year. Is absolutely nothing. That's the statistics, and that's brilliant. That makes you probably in the percentile of a very
a lot
good
of shoplifters would just be desperate, wouldn't they? And they just run out. Like I was never one of them. I'd make sure when I've emptied like a shelf of alcohol, I'd leave like 4 and I'd bring them forward so they don't. When the shopkeepers are walking past, they don't clock there's a big gap missing, and then they might have to check them weeks later, and they can't be bothered going through the CCTV. Normally, if you see there's an empty shelf, you're going straight on CCTV and you're going to find the person. But if it's in a week and then you find out, it's going to be hard going through that. Obviously, as well, when you're out of the country or you're out of your area, it's hard as well because people won't clock you. But I was never one who made myself known. I was always quite, careful with it. But when I went to that restorative justice quickly, they said from the money they caught off me, this is just co-op alone, that they estimated the value of everything I stole in the last 4 years, I think it was something like £250,000, and that was just from the co-ops. Obviously, I had done Tesco's,
wow,
and other shops as well.
That's a house. You've bought a good house. That's mad. 250k.
230 something they said. Yeah.
So on 230k, well, listen, take away 10k. That's absolutely crazy. Wow.
And this is happening still now. Like people are still hitting. Like I weren't the only one. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of shoplifters out there. Plenty.
But that's not like the way you. I've had mates that would have done stuff like that. That would have come out with a pair of glasses, and you're like, Jesus, you just stole those glasses and stuff.
Yeah.
But what you're doing there is literally, that's like a career. That's a career.
But that's why they always give me like 2 years, do 1, or 12 months, do 6. Like normally a shoplift, you get in like 4 weeks, but I always got the highest amount. Always.
Rightly so, because there's thinking that
yeah.
I'm not sounding bad, but I'm thinking to myself, you're probably one of the most successful thieves that's ever.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's actually
no, of course.
That's
I'll tell you another one I used to do quite a lot of as well was Specsavers and Vision Express. So I had a few people who used to buy frames off me, not sunglasses, just frames. And I had another guy who would buy them in bulk. So what I used to do is I'd go into Specsavers. Sometimes if it was a bit like on top, I would make a booking. I'd book in, like, you know, and then in half hour I'd come back. I'd give him a fake name. I'd pretend to get an eye test, and I'd just walk out with loads of frames. Otherwise, I'd just go in there and just take loads of frames, and they're like £230 each. They don't 90% of them don't have cameras in Specsavers. I just walk out with loads of fucking frames, and sunglasses as well was a good one in the summer.
Is that an irony, though? Is that an irony that they don't have cameras?
They can see me coming. They can see me coming.
Is it though? Is it? I'm just thinking about that. Is it?
Well, my mate got caught. My mate got caught in Specsavers. It wasn't Specsavers. It was another opticians, because we used to hit opticians. And someone put on there, like, the guy, they obviously didn't see this one coming, like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, like Specsavers, they every summer they put a release out. But for the last couple of years, they've had Balmain, Hugo Boss, Tommy Hilfiger, Marc Jacobs, Kenzo. So they're the makes they have on there with no alarms, nothing. And I used to just go and hit. I used to go on Google Earth, type in fucking Specsavers near me, and we just hit every Specsavers.
Wow, that's. I don't mean to laugh at that, but that's it. I'm not joking. Somebody should click onto this and do a movie about this. I know they might have to dramatize it a little bit, but
I wouldn't even say dramatize it, because it is like crazy. We've been rammed off the road. Like we got rammed off the road. We did towards the end. We done we done the Lydney. We call it the Ring of Fire, because it's so easy, but it's you could get a comeback from it, because it's not too far away from Cardiff. We call it the Ring of Fire, and you come from Chepstow, which is the Welsh border near Bristol, Chepstow through Lydney, Colford, Cinderford. It's the Forest of Dean where they filmed Harry Potter, and all these towns. They're like nice, really posh towns. They've got wicked shops, and the last one is Ross on Wye near Hereford, and we done Ross on Wye, and in there they had, I forgot the make, but we like all these other places. We had the car was full of booze. It must have been about 10 grand in alcohol. You know, when you got all the Slingsby gins, which are 40 quid. Like, we just got a boot full of alcohol. We must have had about 40 Yankee candles from the garden centre. We sell them a tenner a pop. So there's 400 quid in candles. We had all the gloves, the sides were full of just frames. We had loads of frames. And then we were done, but we were greedy. And we went into Ross on Wye. And we went to this one opticians. They must have clocked on to us, yeah? So we went into Ross on Wye. We got these glasses. Then we went to Mountain Warehouse. Now, Mountain Warehouse, they don't have well, they didn't at the time. They didn't have alarms on the doors. So they got alarms on the coats, but they got no alarms on the doors. So we were walking out. Someone wanted puffer jackets. So we got a few Mountain Warehouse. Then there was this like other shop which did outdoors, and we had a load of rab coats. And we took these rab coats. We had about 3 rab coats. Put them in the top of the. We had like a hatchback thing, and then obviously where we came on top in the opticians, there must have been CCTV. So when we come back from Ross on Wye, we were going on the M50 back home, and then you got the Celtic Manor Hotel where they done the Ryder Cup in 2012. That's Newport roundabout. And when we were coming down the M50 onto the roundabout, there was T5's police waiting for us and everything. And I was clucking as well. I didn't have no gear since the morning. I was starting to cluck, and I just wanted to get back and score. And we went round the roundabout. They followed us. So we went round again. They were still following. We tried taking chase. They closed us in. And yeah, they had a haulage of like 10, 15 grand in stuff. Wow. Did
you all get done then?
Yeah. We had to go back to Hereford Court for that. And it was crazy. They were quite lenient with us. Jay had community service and a suspended sentence. I had tag and a suspended sentence.
Wow. And that sort of leads us on. Your jail time, you done was it 2 stints in jail?
I've done 10.
10? I only heard 2 in the pot. So you've done 10 stints, so 10
yeah,
separate.
like I say, they would like, you know, I've never been no like robber gangster. Like, they were all for shoplifting, but they would always give me the highest. 12 months. 2 years is the max. I've had that. Then I've had 12 months. But then I've had like 3 or 4 recalls. They call them recalls, where you do like a 28-day lie down, 14-day lie down. I've done like an 8-month do 4. I think all in all, I've done about just under 4 or 5 years in jail. All in all, like, you know, I've
So
lost 4 years of
going
my
into
life.
going into your first stint in jail, how or in prison, how is it going through the withdrawals being inside prison?
Yeah, it's not good. In Wales at the time, if you weren't on a methadone script outside, you not allowed to get on one inside, and you'd be clucking raw cluck. You know, if you want to go to the meds hatch, they might give you some paracetamol, but that's it. And
Yeah,
on my first ever time, I never thought I was going to jail. Just I knew you know, my lives ran out. You know, I had the suspendeds, I had the tags, but I never thought I'd ever go to jail. And when I did, I was wanted by the police, and I was on a methadone script. I think it was on like 90 mil at the time, or 80 mil, and that's a high dose. And I've got a really bad heroin addict, so I went to dip on a Friday to get up my meth, and they said to me, "Look, Cullen, you're wanted by the police. Go and hand yourself in," which I never done. So then I missed. So I had my take home Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but I never went back Monday because I knew the police would be waiting there. Now we can talk about this in a bit if you remember, but I'm well against police. They shouldn't be allowed to go to these places because a lot of people don't get medicated because they might be wanted or a warrant. Now I understand if someone's being killed or you know, then rightly so, they should be arrested and the police should be there. But there's a lot of people who are scared to go to these places because of the police. So I didn't go for the week. So then I'm clucking off my meth. I've still got a heroin habit, but I've got a double habit now because I'm on meth. So I was using more heroin for a week. I was on the run for a week without meth. I got caught. So I went in there and I said, look, I was on a methadone script. And they were like, no, you haven't been for a week. They say it's because it's safety, because you might OD on it, but that's not true because I'm a heroin addict. Like, I'm using heroin every day. You should give me meth. But they never. So I was coming off heroin and methadone in prison, and it was just like, I can't explain it. It's a horrible feeling as well when it's your first time ever, because when you're in prison, you want to be able to defend yourself. It's as simple as that. You don't want to go into a jail cell or on a wing for the first time ever and not be able to look after yourself when someone says, yo, have you brought anything in? Yo, what trainers are they? Yo, you got any burn? Because when you go into prison, they'll give you, you can either have a canteen pack with squash and milk and tea bags, or you can have a smoker's pack at them times. So when people come on, you know, first come in, there's people who've been on the wing for months who probably haven't got no burn and they're like on you like a hawk type of thing. So I remember like people were coming to my door, but luckily, because of my uncle and being a local prison, everyone knew when they seen Mace on the card, they thought I was my uncle. And I was like, no, it's Cullen. And they were like, but people will still try it. Do you know what I mean? So for the first 2 weeks, I was really, really fucking bad. There was people on the wing. This is the maddest thing. They put me on the drug wing. Now, the drug wing is where people on methadone and Subutex are. They put me on the drug wing because I was detoxing, but they wouldn't put me on a methadone script. So everyone else around me on the wing is on methadone, Subutex. You know, they're fine. They're buzzing. And I'm in my cell clucking. It was like torture. And, you know, when you're detoxing from opiates, especially heroin or meth.
Why did they do that to you? Why would they do that?
I don't know. They're just, some of these prisoners are just backwards. They're just backwards. Like, they think, oh yeah, he's detoxing from heroin, put him on the heroin wing. But then they don't realise that everyone around him's on methadone. It was just a tease. So there was people on there who would keep their Subutex back. This is the days of the B8 tablets. You can palm them, bring them out and crush them up, dry them up, crush them up and sniff them. Now they have Espranol, which is something you put in your tongue and it dissolves. It's like when you go to the church and they give you the bread. It's like paper. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's a dissolvent. Yeah.
So they got that now to stop people selling it. But at the time, people were palming them. And when you go in there was something called Britlafex or Lefexidine, which people who are detoxing from heroin have. They're just to take away stomach cramps and they lower your heart rate. But someone said to me, listen, keep your Britlafex back and I'll give you some Sebi. Because apparently, if you take Britlafex and Sebi, it gets you high. And when you're a drug addict, you know all the ins and outs, you know all the concoctions. So I was just, you know, didn't know where I was. First time in jail. I'm clucking, don't know where I am. I get down to the meds hatch. I pretend to take it. I palm it. I walk out. The officer catches me straight away.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, fucking hell. Straight away, he went, right. I thought that was it. The next morning, he comes to my cell. He takes my TV, says, you're on basic. I was like, what? What's basic? So basic is where you have no association. You only have a phone call and a shower, and you don't have a TV. So straight away, my first ever sentence, I done basic for a month with no TV. I was clucking, didn't sleep for about a month. For about 3 weeks, sorry, because what happened was, after 2 weeks of being on that wing, they put me onto F wing, which is a normal wing. Managed to see some people I knew, managed to get some tramadol. They stop you from clucking, but only a little bit. You know, tramadol's another opiate, a synthetic opiate. If you take them, they're nice if you've never taken drugs. But if you're clucking from heroin and you've got a heavy rattle, it'll take the edge off, but it won't totally, block your receptors. Mm-hmm. And then I was tuned up with a friend, Cali Top, and I thought, oh, I could get used to this, get a couple of pills. As I go through my heroin rattle, I got a friend here. And then a letter come through my door, and they said, you fit the criteria for an overcrowded prisoner. You go into HMP Birmingham. And I was like, Birmingham? Are you fucking mad? I banged the cell. I went, Gov, are you sure you got this wrong? They were like, no, you're going to Birmingham. And then I realised Birmingham was Winson Green, which is like an infamous prison. It's one of the worst prisons in the UK. You obviously had the riots there a couple of years ago, when all the inmates just caused mayhem and had the keys. So I went to Birmingham. As I'm going up on the meat wagon, I see a couple of people, someone on their Levi Galwell said, yo, Cullen, in English jails they give you methadone if you say you're clucking. Luckily enough as well, I was using a bit of subby on the F wing, so it would have been in my system. So as soon as I went up there, I said to him, look, I'm clucking off heroin, and they put me straight on a methadone script. I regretted it straight away because when I was on induction wing, I'm around all these big black guys, these murderers and stuff in Birmingham, and one of them goes, what wing you going on, lad? And I said, they're sending me to B wing now. He was like, oh, you don't want to go there. And I'm thinking, this guy looks like the heaviest dude in the prison, and he's even telling me B wing's bad. Yeah. Which it was. It was an eye opener for me, Birmingham. I thought A wing Cardiff was a big wing. I think it holds about 300 prisoners, 350 prisoners on a wing, maybe more, 400. But B wing Birmingham was twice the size. Very same as Cardiff, though, Victorian prison, very cold, dirty, cockroaches everywhere, rats, the lot, and it was an eye opener for me, that first sentence. From there, I went to Stoke Heath, which is North Wales border. It's Shropshire, and it's a melting pot of everyone. You've got people from Cardiff, Swansea, Wales, a lot of North Walians. You've got Liverpool, Manchester, Bolton, Leeds, Birmingham, Wolves, London, even some Scotland. They're all in this jail, Stoke Heath. It's a Cat C, so it's like people who are coming towards the end of their sentences and stuff. It's long, it's not double Cat A, but it's a mad prison.
But you done 10 stints, and that means what's the time frame in between them? Is it a couple of months?
They're getting shorter and shorter. So I think the first one I come out, I lasted 8 months. Back in 8 months, back out. I think it was like 3-4 months. Back in, back out, a week. Back in on a recall. I think the longest one I'd done, the last time was the longest. I was out a year, and then I went back in. But yeah, they weren't long. They were months back in.
When was your last stint?
My last sentence was 2019, 2020. End of 2019. I think I spent Christmas in 2019. I was out 2020, and that was it. Then lockdown happened.
That's not that long ago. I mean,
no.
Were you still, so in your last sentence you were still using?
The last time I smoked heroin was 2020, August 2020.
2 years ago.
August the 1st, 2020. 2 years ago. I was rampant. I was flat out, and that was the last time I smoked. my best friend, my co-defendant. Oh, go on, what was you saying?
No, I just said, wow, because the difference in you is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Last time my best, basically what happened was, my best friend who I've been talking, my co-defendant, my driver, when we shoplifted, basically what happened was he passed away, and we didn't know why he passed. People thought it was because he took, a lot of drugs. And do you know what? I'm just going to say, so what happened was, we went out shoplifting one day, and it was lockdown, COVID kicked in, and they were giving me my methadone, weekly takeouts on methadone. So instead of going every day, again, a take home on a Friday for the Monday, they were giving you weekly takeouts. I was due my takeout. My dad was going to take me. Jay was like, no, I'll come and get you. We got to get out early. We got to hit the road for like 9 o'clock if we want to go to fucking Worcester and come back. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to be on the road early. So I went, okay, whatever. So I went with him. He picked me up. We got my meth. I'm on tag. We went out. We made loads of money, loads of stuff. It's about 5 o'clock now. I've got an hour and a half to get in. It was about 5:30. I got to score my drugs. I got to sell the stuff. I got to score the drugs and get home for 7 o'clock. We manages to like nip and tuck. We get it. We're rushing. I guess to the house. I just jumps out, grabs my stuff and goes. I says, I'll meet you in the morning, because we had loads of stuff we still wanted to sell, like loads. As soon as I get in, I think, fuck, I've left my methadone in his car. Yeah. So I phoned him. I says, listen, Jay, my meth's in your car. Put it away, please. That's like someone's epileptic tablets. Do you know what I mean? That's their medication. Without that, I'm clucking.
Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. Next day, I guess I thought, in the morning, I wakes up. My dad goes, "Where's your meth?" Because my dad was like, "No, I'll take you." My dad goes, "Where's your meth?" I went, "Oh, I seen Jay's got it in his house." He went, "I fucking knew it. Ring him up now. Get it. I'm taking you over." So I rings his number. His girlfriend answers the phone. "Oh, what's going on?" She goes, "All right, Carl. Yeah, he ain't waking up. He ain't waking up. We've had an argument, and he haven't woke up. He went to bed about 5 o'clock in the morning. And he haven't woke up." I went, "Oh, he's a fucking donut. He was meant to take me out this morning. We've got loads of stuff to sell." She went, "Oh, yeah." I went, "Well, anyway, listen, I'm coming over. My meth's in the house in a medical bag." He said he brought it in. He went, she goes, "Well, that's the other thing, see, Carl. We had an argument, and he came back with one of your bottles of meth and said he's going to drink it." And I was like, "What?" She went, "Yeah, he's drunk it, but he ain't waking up. I've tried waking him up. He ain't getting up." I was like, "Whatever." Hung up the phone. I went straight to his house. Gets to the house. He lives in a bungalow. As I guess in there, basically, his family were going on holiday the same day. And basically, let me paint a picture. He was the type of guy, he would cause carnage when he's in the house. Do you know what I mean? He's cooking, he's making a mess, he'll burn the house down. I guess in a house like that, right? I look to the left, he's downstairs, Jay. He's just got a quilt on him, he's breathing, he's fine. I goes into the room, his family are there and stuff. They're all getting ready to go away. She was like, "Oh, don't wake him up, please. I don't want him causing murder." So I went, "Fair enough. He's there, he's breathing, he's fine." Goes upstairs. That girl's there with my bottles of meth. She looks off her face. I thought, he haven't took it. You've took it. You're just saying that. Anyway, grabs it. I goes, gives his mother a hug. I goes, I think I'll ring him later, Later that day, I guess a phone call. He's dead. He haven't woke up at all. So they reckon, like, he's, like, the whole time, I'm thinking maybe he did take the meth. So let me just, I'll skip a bit.
But you seen him, just a question, you seen him breathing and he was awake?
Yeah. Well, he was snoring.
So you heard him breathing
all that,
Right, okay.
So as soon as I found out that the news, he was dead, it was like a car hit me. I just felt really weak. I don't know why. My immune system's down anyway. I've been saying it for ages. Like, I could feel my body deteriorating. I'm smoking too much heroin. I'm not even burning the foil. I'm inhaling loads of shit. I think the shock of it caught me off guard, and my immune system just went. I started getting these stabbing pains within the hour, getting these stabbing pains in the back of my lungs, catching. Goes to hospital. No, goes to a doctor's the next day. Get up the hospital. When I land doc, they said it's just an infection. They give me some antibiotics. They let me go. 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, this is a day and a half after he's died. 3 o'clock in the morning. Wakes up, loads of stabbing pains in me. You know, I'm getting hot sweats. I stands up. I calls my mum and dad. I collapses. Wakes up in the back of a van with the oxygen on. Wakes up again then when I'm in hospital in a COVID room with 2 needles there, 2 needles there. I'm in the hospital for weeks. Whilst I'm in the hospital, I'm getting messages off Jay's family. Yeah, you know, fucking, it's mad. We don't know what it is. Asking me questions about my meth and stuff. Whatever. Yeah, sorry. Let me just finish my bit, then I'll go back. So whilst I'm in there, then in hospital, I missed his funeral, this and that. I'm fucking really guilty, thinking, is this because I'm like, is he drunk my meth? Whilst I'm in there, then the doctors, because they found a bottle of my meth, the police found a bottle of my meth in his house. The police have reported it to my place where I get my meth. The doctor have said to me, you can go back on the meth, but you've got to go every single day to pick it up, including the Saturday and Sunday. I was like, fucking hell, that's no life. And then he went, the other option is going on this injection, Buvidal. I thought to myself, whilst I was in hospital, I promised myself, if I get through this, because it was very close, I was going to die. You know, I had sepsis, pneumonia, COVID. I was detoxing off heroin and meth.
So you were detoxing off meth and heroin.
And crack, which is not physical, but you know, coming off crack. And I was drinking like 4 cans of Orange Boom a day, you know, the 8.5 ones.
Yes.
Everything I was doing, like towards the end, I was bad. Like,
and you had COVID. And you had COVID too.
Well, they kept on testing me for COVID. They said I didn't, you know, it was negative, but they kept trying, and then they said I caught it in there. But pleurisy, they said, all that type of stuff, but it was sepsis. I caught sepsis whilst in there, and pneumonia. So I ended up taking the injection. I come around a couple of weeks later, started to feel right, and then when I left, I took the injection. From then, I never looked back. But I started to do a lot of talking, and like, you know, the place where I used to get my meth, they were phoning me up just to check I was okay. Sorry to hear about Jay, whatever else, and all this type of stuff. But for a year, like, what they had to do is they had to go and get, like, because the doctor said apparently that there was no drugs. He didn't die of a drug overdose. Now, I know that night from speaking to the girl, he drank a bottle of Jack Daniels, and you know, he was smoking crack all night and other things, you know, I don't know what, but that was always in my head, like, you know, a bottle of meth was in his house and did he drink it, you know? And then we had to wait a year for the extra, they had the toxicology, but they done like another one on him where they took bits of his body, and it came back that whatever drugs he took, he didn't have enough drugs in him to kill him. It was, he had what's it called? Not pleurisy. No, lymphoma, something pneumonia. He had the same as what I had, and that's what made him die.
Sepsis.
So basically, it's like whatever we were taking, like, you know, maybe, but he had an underlying problem as well. But whatever he was taking, it killed him, and it almost killed me. But it was bittersweet in the end, because all this time I'm thinking he drank my meth, but he never, you know. And it's bittersweet to me. Do you know what I mean?
But you were both of you were in that world, right? And I mean, when you're in that world, things are going to happen, so you can't blame yourself. He was a very close, you know. Do you know what I mean? He was a very close friend to you, and I think he would probably be proud.
He was older than me. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
no one could tell him no. But the one thing I do say, like, you know, through all of it, you know, whether he didn't take it or not, the doctors made me give me an ultimatum from it to go on the injection or the meth every day. I chose the injection, which is why I'm here now with you talking. I think like a big part of why I do what I do is because I do it for Jay as well. Do you know what I mean?
Fair play. And I think, do you think, just maybe it's a bit of a strange question, but do you think if you could go back in time and show Jay the person that you are now, that
I think about it every day, mate. I
Yeah.
think about it every day. I just love, and I think he is looking down on me because we were so close, and like it was like when it was his funeral, I was in hospital, and I was thinking the only person or people he would want there, like me, like we were close. He'd tell me his deepest, darkest secrets. He'd cry to me, and he was a good guy. And it's another lesson to other people. This guy was well respected, hard man from the city, used to sell a lot of drugs. Like, you know, he was a big guy, like, do you know what I mean? About himself, yeah. And he was a funny, lovable rogue who went down the wrong road, the same as me. Towards the end of his life, he was living in a bungalow with his mum and dad and was just taking drugs and couldn't see a way out. And I spoke to my solicitor a couple of months ago because we had the same solicitor, and he said that was probably the best thing that happened to Jay because he was going other ways. But, you know, I think about him all the time. You know, it's a shame what happened. I think, you know, some people, like, because when it first happened, people were saying, oh, yeah, I heard he drank your thing. And, like, I was just like, well, even if he did, that's got nothing to do with me. He decided to drink that. But, you know, like
that's like just leaving your tablets and somebody
just like
taking
leaving a rope somewhere and then someone fucking taking it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. No, listen, regardless, even if he did, and that was the cause, it wouldn't have been your fault. And
Well,
I think,
I do a lot of work now, and the other day it was crazy. With Voices Action Changed, with what I'm doing, I've been doing a lot of with the APB and the harm reduction, drug poisoning, fatal drug poisoning people for the Welsh government in Cardiff in the Vale. And he was saying, like, we've done all the cases in the last 4 years, and I mentioned him, and he said I remember the name, and I said, well, I was a part of that case, like, you know, because obviously they found, and he was just like, that's unbelievable. Like, how do you feel being here? And I was like, I need to be here. I want to like raise awareness and help other people. And now, like,
I'm sure people don't even recognize you, mate. I'm sure that people would see you and would remember the person that you were, and they would be like, is this the same person? Because it's just completely different. You're just, you know, obviously I didn't know you before. I only know the person now, but looking at the videos and watching sort of things that you've put out, it's like it's two completely different people. Do you think, is that down to the wonder drug that they give you, or is that something in your own head?
Look, I don't think it's a silver bullet. I don't think it's for everyone. But if there's people out there like me in addiction, which there are, it'll work for you. It's the same as methadone. Methadone, people say it's the worst drug ever. But I'm sure there's a percentage of people out there who have taken methadone after heroin and have got clean or have never taken anything else. It's the same with 12 steps recovery. It's the same with going to, you know, religious or Buddhism. Everyone has their own way of recovery. It's not my way, but it is a way. And I say to people on Buvidal, it's a big thing of what I do now when like people are saying, do you think he's like right for it? Is I can tell when someone's right for Buvidal or not. The first thing I say is, do you still like crack? Do you still smoke crack? If they say yeah, it's not really for you. Because why do I say that? A lot of people who tackle their heroin problem via the Buvidal feel the need to compensate with crack cocaine or spice or weed or Valiums. They think, okay, well, I've tackled the heroin, I can take that. Or as well, if someone has got a traumatic, you know, they've got a lot of trauma that they've done in drugs or before drugs, PTSD, I'll ask them, how do you deal with that? Because if it's through Buvidal, I'll tell them, be prepared for a rocky first few months. You know, the first few months of me, when I took that injection and I was living for a year thinking my best mate took something that had my name on it, and people saying, not just that, that's just one day, but then all the people I've stolen from, all the shops I've stolen from, all the times I've hurt my family, all the things I've done wrong, all your emotions coming back to you, because that's what happens with Buvidal. You know, it's not like any other drug where you could probably suppress it as a substitute. All your emotions come back, you know,
Sure,
the wet
everything.
dreams, everything. And it's like, there's a lot of people who have tried Buvidal. That's why they give them a week first. So the injection is once a month. You take once a month, let you live your life, you know, and then you come back in a month, take it again. So if you ever try to take drugs, it won't work. But for the first month, for the first injection, they do two. Sometimes they do it twice. Sometimes they do it once. They'll do a weekly one to see how you was in a week. Because some people might take it and they're sober and they just can't live with their lives. That's why if someone's living on the streets, I would say, well, can you live on the streets with no, you know,
No, you
heroin?
couldn't. No, you couldn't.
That's your blanket, isn't it? You've got to be kind of stable in a way. And like I do think it was the missing link in my recovery, 100%. But it weren't the be all and end all because, you know, I could have carried on smoking crack. You've got to be willing to stop taking other drugs as well. You can't just tackle the opiates and ignore the alcohol, the Valium, the Xanax, the crack, the cocaine. You've got to
Are
be
you
ready.
totally 100% clean of everything now?
Yeah.
Wow.
We went out for a meal the other night for Clara's birthday. I drank a strawberry daiquiri cocktail. That was it. I don't do nothing.
But if you just, for instance, if you go out and have a drink, alcohol's different. Or is it different?
Yeah, no, I know.
Does that bring you back into the same mind frame? I know you're not an
Uh,
alcoholic, but I
yeah,
mean,
you know, like I love the freedom that I'm allowed to have a drink.
yeah.
But like I said, where the only type of temptation I get from alcohol would be crack. Because it's that work, you know, the same with people who sniff coke when they have a drink. Oh, I gotta have a line when I have a drink just to weigh me out, like, and it's that urge. But when I'm so scared to smoke crack because I need gear to bring me down. Anytime I use crack, I needed heroin. Where I've tackled my heroin problem through the injection, I know if I try smoking crack, I'm gonna end up killing myself or someone because I just can't take the headspace. It's a genuine scare for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I can handle it having a drink.
Is this, or are you going to stay clean for the rest of your life?
Never say never. You know, in my heart, like, I don't know, every other time I've always thought just one more time, you know, I could do it one more time. You know, even if I haven't, but you never know in a month or two, I might just have a go. Now, it don't bother me. I don't think about it. It's like something in your gut just tells you you're done with it, you know? And that's how I'm feeling right now. But you can never say never in anything, you know?
You got kids now, though. Do you know what I
I
mean?
always had it. I always had a kid. Always had a kid.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
she's 10 now, my daughter. And some people will say, like, you know, some people's change is having a kid. Some other people's change is their girlfriend dying. Someone else's rock bottom, you know, or you know, there's always something that changes, and mine was almost dying.
But
And
you
then you've
were
got
a
to look.
kid. You were a kid starting to take. Well, the thing that the difference is, it's not like you became an addict at 27. You became an addict as a teenager. So, you know, it's a bit different.
I was an addict when I had my kid. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit different with that. It's not like, you know, like a 30-year-old man becoming an addict and forgetting about his kids. You know, you've got a younger kid now, and you know, you've got that is a motivation to stay clean and a sort of a drive.
Yeah.
And
I say to people all the time, Ronan, I say it all the time. You've got to have responsibility. You've got to achieve things and set goals to achieve, to weigh up throwing things away. You know, when you're clean for a week and you've just been clean for a week, okay, that's a week you're going to throw away, but it's not much. Then it's a month, then it's 2 months, and it's that public talk you've done in the university. Then it's the public talk, 3 months, and a job interview. Then it's, you know, you're setting a podcast up, you've got a girlfriend, and that was that. Now you're 20 episodes in, now you've got a full-time job and you're seeing your daughter, and you've just got to keep, and then, you know, you've got it all to lose then, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? It's
well, mate, you have it. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. Just the cold hard truth. You have it literally all to lose. If you went back onto that, I mean, you've got one of the most. It's the fastest growing podcast. I would say at this time in the next 5 years, you'll be one of the biggest podcasts in the UK by easy. I know
Do you
there's
think,
a
would
bit of
you
a
think we've grown faster, you then? Like, because, you know, I haven't seen the growth of the other podcasters who are big now. Do you know what I mean?
well, look, without getting into it too much, we know how other sort of podcasts and other sort of hosts have sort of got to that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you've got your bread and butters, your James Englishes, your Sean Atwoods. James English, one of the greatest podcasters on planet Earth. Same as Sean Atwood. Do you know what I mean? But you're only a year old, and it's like you've looking at your content. It's great content. You've got a great looking studio. Your guests are coming in. Just about learning. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
about learning to do what you're
But
doing.
all them as well, all them podcasters, I look at them like they've all been in like TV, or they've had a leg up somewhere, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? They've been on something, or they've got something that they've built off the back of, and
it's about the grind. It's a grind. It's a grind. Like they might have came into YouTube at a time where maybe it was easier to rise up through the algorithms.
They were the first. They were the first to do it, weren't they?
I think so. Sort of. Yeah, I think you're correct in that.
In the UK, I think.
Yeah.
I just think it was a right time for someone. Well, Sean Atwood, I think he started his channel in like 2007. So no matter what kind of content he was doing, he's been there for a long time,
Well, he just put up videos. Like, I don't think it was podcasts he started to put up. It was like sort of description videos of like what would happen in American prisons, and it just took off.
Yeah.
But it's the grind. It's like anything. If you put enough time and effort into something, it will pay off. It's going to pay off. It's just there's going to be times where it's going to be really bad and people are going to be laughing at you. I get it all the time. People come in all the time. I see other channels and they're slating each other and they're bringing so much negativity, and they're not bringing any content to the table. They're not really bringing any substance, and they're getting 600 people watching. And it's like, that's what I don't want to do. It's very attractive to do that.
Yeah.
But do it the right way.
It's like selling your soul. It's like selling your soul. Like, what are you actually doing? How are you helping people? What message are you sending? And hey, listen, look, me and you, like, we probably the same. We probably sit there sometimes and think, oh, I do it all the time. All the time.
But it's worse for you though, because you've got this, like, it's a great studio. And I'll just say it, there was you've done a podcast with John Hartson, and there should be 1,000 people watching that live, because that is John Hartson. But unfortunately, we're living in an era where people are coming away from EastEnders and they're coming onto YouTube and social media, so they have to have that supplemented. Do you know what I mean? That's like their methadone, if you want to say, from their heroin is EastEnders.
Well, Jeremy Kyle ain't about no more, is it? So they've got
exactly.
And that's not giving a dig at anyone. I'm just saying it's like, you're right. I think, if that was on a James English podcast or somewhere like that, it would have had much more views because it's John Hartson. It's just getting the exposure out there. But sometimes it is disheartening sometimes. But I just remember why I started. Like, it has been time.
Keep at it. Keep grinding. It doesn't matter what people say. Just block all that shit out. Do you know what I mean?
I think it was. I'll just say it. I know I shouldn't say names now, but I think it was a couple months ago. I think I fell out with when I stopped talking to a certain channel, and I think it was Dr. Rackpull. He was on a live and he went, "The Central Club, that's the most boring channel out there." It's because I don't talk about that stuff. To him, it's just boring, and I'm just like, well, yeah, whatever, mate.
Well, look. The thing about it is, right? You're going to get critics, right? You're going to get critics no matter what you do. I've had critics throughout my whole life. I've had critics since I started my first job, right? But you have to thank your critics, right? Because see, when you look back in 10 years' time, right, you'll think to yourself, if I had to give up, he would have been 100% right. But I haven't give up, and you've surpassed them tenfold, triple, quadruple, tenfold, and you've never looked back. And trust me, that will happen. It's not about talent. It's not about skill. It's not about any of that shit. It's about doing something long enough before you break through. And I guarantee if you stick at that, and you're going to learn. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things. You're going to fuck up. But if you keep doing
I've made mistakes, and and I'll make another 100%. Like,
but mate, you have the skill. I've seen even your girl. She's got a great
Yeah, she's good. Well, do you think I'm okay at interviewing? I know I've got a lot to learn, but
No, listen, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I would tell you were shit if you were shit. I watch your stuff. I would say, look, you know, you say to me too, like you should change this, you should change that.
yeah.
But no, you're a genuine good podcaster, a good interviewer. You've got an execution of questions. Do you know what I mean? That is, but it's easy. Not listen. I'm not saying it's easier to do that face to face. See with on the screen.
Yeah. You've got to weigh it up a bit more when you can feel it, can't you? When it's
especially you've got a good camera, but I get some people on who've got shit cameras, right? And I can't see their facial expressions. And I've maybe asked a question and it looks like they're laughing, but it's just froze, and I'm laughing and they're not laughing. And I'm like, oh shit, they're not laughing at that.
Like I said, like the other day to you, like, do you know what? Like I when I first come across you, I thought, who is this guy? Like, because like you've even admitted, like you jumped in at the wrong. You regret it yourself, innit? But it's what you don't regret it because it is what it is now.
Man, it's destined or some shit. I don't know what went on there. I came on, right, and it was just
but I think you just took an opportunity at the time because I thought I remember when you was interviewing, he who shall not be named.
Just call it Deca, like it's Deca.
Yeah. When I thought fair play to Ronan, he's in there, like But yeah, it is what it is.
Mate, I had 250 subs, and I looked up at the live where it shows you the numbers, and there was 500 people. I was going, and I went, oh shit, I've brought nothing to the table to ask this man. I've done no homework. I've just woke up from a sleep.
Shut up. Is that what happened?
I know. I think I just woke up from a sleep. And I walked in, had my wee slippers on, had a cup of coffee, thinking, oh, this is 60 people.
No, but did people say that you didn't ask the right questions or you didn't target him? Because I thought it was okay.
Well, I think
if you knew more now, it would be
this green screen's going to fall down on me here. It feels like it's going to fall. No, what happened was, right, I know this is your podcast, but we'll, fuck it, things go this way sometimes. What happens is that I was supposed to ask him hard questions, right, in regards to certain scenarios, but I knew nothing about any scenario. All I knew was that there was this form of a paperwork that I could provide to him that would sort of clear his name. I got told to say this, and that was the only one thing I brought to the table. But that one thing sort of fucked up everything that he tried to do, because he tried to say for years that he couldn't show paperwork. But this was a form of paperwork that you could show. And since then, it's just through a spanner in his works, and it was just clear that he was trying to deviate around any way to prove his innocence. So I said, just show it. He's like, yeah, of course, well, yeah. He didn't show it, so I was just like, there must be something to this then, it's actually as simple as that. But that made that was some mad shit. Like, you've got a good one too. You've got something like 55,000 views on his interview.
No, Decca's one didn't do. So what happened with Decca's one? Obviously we done it just before the Danny Christie fight. Which like people knew he was coming on, but no one said nothing like you should.
He was telling me because I was in contact with him at the time.
Yeah, no one said no one was like, don't get him on, like, do you mean? But as soon as I spent the money, got him down here, I've done the editing, I've done the advertising, and then people were like, oh, this, and I was like, what, fuck this, I put it out, and then it was like 6,000. I think we had 6,000 views in like a couple of days. It weren't great, but it was okay.
I thought there was loads more. I thought there was loads more.
Well, no, but at the time he weren't as relevant because it was before the Christie fight. He did blow up a lot more after.
Yeah, literally.
But people were like, no, and then like Karma Corner, people like that started doing videos, and they put the Central Club in it. And I was like, the last thing I wanted was to be into some sort of scandal, so I then just took it down, and I realized I shouldn't have took it down. So since I put it back up, like it haven't budged really. I don't think it's like in the algorithm the same. When you put it onto private and then back to public, it ain't the same. It's hard to find them, like,
Just re-premiere it. That's what you do. Honestly, fuck what everybody else says. Honestly, I couldn't give a fuck what any of the.
Yeah, and I'll never go on his channel again. Like, I know he tried putting me on a Zoom link the other week. I messaged him. I said, listen, mate. I said, I'm not going on. It was mad because I asked him. I said, listen, I'll put it back up, yeah. "No, why didn't you do a live on my channel and I'll like ask questions that like I would have asked if I knew all this stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah, and you can come on mine then." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." And if it goes well, next thing you know, he already scheduled one for me like on his channel before.
I was texting.
Like, "You ain't doing that, mate. You're mad."
Literally, you told me, you texted me, and I was like, hold on, because I know what he's like, right? I know what he does before he even does it.
Straight away, put a photo up of me, cross tagging my. I was like, "Nah, you're the sly guy, man."
It's because
he won't go on anyone else's channel, clearly.
But it's not because of that. He wants. It's actually quite sad, really, right? Well, it's not sad because if it's true what people are saying is what he is, then I don't actually give a fuck. But it's like he wants a friend, and I've noticed it's really, really bad. Like,
listen,
you know,
he's too. You know the time, the window I did speak to him.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff he would say about other people and like. And like we've seen other people who he's befriended and then have outed voice notes. It's like there's some desperation there of like a friend. You're right. It's sad, mate. It's sad. It's fucking sad, and I don't know how it's going to all end up. I don't know how it's going to plan out.
You see,
but he genuinely thinks that he's still going to be this great podcaster, but all he does is still talk utter shit about the same stuff. That's what I don't understand.
Listen, guys, for anybody that's tuning in that doesn't know, listen, go just type in Deca Higgy's name. We can't explain it here. We've been through the wars the past 6 months. But the thing about it is, this is going to be a Netflix documentary in about 6 years' time. Easy.
Yeah, but he'll live that.
Yeah, but behind bars. like fucking Joe Exotic.
Yeah, could be.
That Karma Corner. Is it the Caroline Baskin? That Karma Corner. Karma Corner is Deca Higgy's Caroline Baskin.
Yeah.
That's fucked up, isn't it?
Do you think it's Karma or do you think there's other ones?
Danny Christie's maybe Caroline Baskin.
No. Do you know who Danny Christie is? You know the guy who overtakes the zoo? The one with the little ponytail.
Oh my god!
And they say he's dodgy as well.
And it's fucked up. But I have to say though, Danny is actually. I've spoke to Danny a few times. Danny's actually a really nice guy. The thing about Danny is,
I've never spoken to him. He seems like a nice guy. I speak to Patrick McCrory. You know Jimmy McCrory, the other boxer.
No,
Jimmy Patrick. No. He done the bare knuckle on Vice, the one who wears the Newcastle top in the ring.
Oh yes.
Yeah, they trained together. I've spoken to Jimmy. He's a nice guy. But you know what? I've never spoken to Danny.
Get Danny on. Danny is a good guy. People say, "Oh, sure, Danny's past. Danny's got a past." Danny's honest about his past. That's the difference. And he hasn't done bad shit. Do you know what I mean? The women or kids. He's had a bit of a past where he's bit of drink, and doing whatever he was doing. But he's honest. All I can ask, like for yourself,
I think Deca say he punched his mother or something. Didn't he?
He was honest about that. You've come on. You're honest. I respect that. I've asked you some tough questions, like, are you going to stay clean and stuff? That's a hard question to answer.
I don't know how some people though could come onto YouTube, like, and pretend to not have a part, like, hide it. How do you do that? Like,
listen. It's narcissism. Think about it this way, right? So we're all on here for clicks, views, and likes. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's the truth, right? So we're all in here to sort of get gratification for our content. So we're all a wee bit narcissistic in a way. We want to be seen, and we want all this content to want to be better than everybody else.
I agree.
That's the truth. But some people come on here, and they literally live their life like they are on YouTube. So they don't care about their wife, they don't care about their kids, they don't care about anything. And it's like a narcissism, and they're on the screen and they want, oh, look at me, I'm great, I'm brilliant. But the reality is, like, I don't have to say it, I'm not going to name any names, but you know of two people that have snaked me in podcasts, and these people are the worst people on planet Earth that betray to the public that they're great, but they're actually snakes. And that's the type of people that are on YouTube. About maybe 70% of them are like that.
Yeah, but we got this YouTube community here in the UK, we say, But you got people like Happy Hour, Jackmate podcast, and the fellas and KSI. They must look at this like community and think, what the hell? Because there is a lot of I don't know how to put it. There's just a lot of Gmail accounts, you know. There's just people who got Gmail accounts.
Yes.
They get their phone and they're just like, yo, and it's like there's a few out there. I'm not going to say any names, like, but there's a few out there who are literally like they've built their names off the back of people like that guy.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. Like, if I was never directly involved in that situation, I wouldn't be speaking about that situation because it makes me feel uncomfortable. But the fact that he dragged me in, I was like, fuck him.
I was the same, no, mate. You're not like a mug. You're not dumb for it. Like, we were both roped in. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is.
It's mental, like, it's absolutely mental. But I think, listen, guys, if you want to watch the full story from start to finish, with all the little bits that Cullen done with his girl on his channel.
Yeah.
His channel is in the description and the comment section of this video if you're watching after the fact.
Yeah.
Please go check that whole thing out. We covered wee bits and pieces there to do with that. There was certain questions I wanted to ask. You know, we dived into.
We can do a part 2, mate. We can do another one, and we can talk about other things as well. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. If you ever want to do a live, no problem. And you can come on as well.
It would be a bit of crack. Like, I do lives on Mondays and Thursdays. This Thursday, it's just going to be an open panel. It's just going to be a bit of crack.
On with whoever, and you can come on mine one night as well, where I can do an interview with you to help you get some traction over yours.
Yeah. Of course, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, what was I going to say as well? We are doing it was the 52nd episode, so 52 weeks. We class it as a year, but we're actually releasing a podcast on the year to the date, and it's going to be Clara interviewing my dad. And like it's like a head-to-head with me and my dad to hear from a parent's side of addiction and stuff. So that'll be pretty good. Maybe we can do something after that as well.
Wow, that's going to be a big one. I'll definitely tune in for that.
Yeah,
and guys,
it's going to be emotional.
Do subscribe to the Central Club. As I say, the link can be found in the comment section and description of this video. Guys, it is the fastest growing podcast in the UK and Ireland. Cullen doesn't say it, but I know this time in 5 years it's going to be one of the most successful. So start the journey now with Cullen.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, guys. Like, listen, we're trying our best. We did start off with 3 of us. 2 of them haven't made it. You know, they were young kids and they're just going on their own way. But you know, I've got me, my missus. I've got a great team behind me, camera and sound. We've got a couple others in the background who are kind of like, you know, giving their input and stuff. But yeah, every Sunday, 5 o'clock, we've you know, and the beauty of it, you know, they're always different. It could be true crime one week, and the next week it's a musician. The week after is a football player. The week after is a heroin addict. They're always different. We try and do lives in the midweek as well, but we're looking now to build extra content for other, you know, extra bits of content from outside of the studio. So that should be interesting. But yeah, guys, I really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel and show your support and just be along for the journey with us. Like, you know, like
that's it. And this is the start. And listen, enjoy the thing about it is you have to enjoy the process. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not rush things, because if you rush it, then you'll fall out of love with the game. You have to love every single one that you do, even the ones that turn out shit. You have to appreciate them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But listen, that's it. I think we've talked about a load there. Probably could have talked about a little bit more, but I like that. I like sort of things being off the cuff like that. There.
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed it, mate. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, like this could be the first of a, you know, a saga.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
You know, if you ever get any like type of, if something goes on in the world and there's like a topic that you think I could be related to, I'll jump on, not a problem. And yeah, you need to start doing more, Ron, because I think you're really good at what you do, mate. Honestly, you're very clever, but you can also relate to, you know, like the fact that, like the empathy bit at the beginning. I was quite like,
I picked up on that empathy part, because you could tell that I've met drug addicts before, right? And a lot of them don't have empathy. But I knew with yourself that there was an empathy there. Like, you could tell that it was for a different reason. Things done for a different reason. And, you know, it's a, guys, I'm not joking you, please check out the podcast he done with his girl. And it's mind blowing. It's up to 13K views already, and it is growing. It's amazing.
Yeah. We've got the post gone viral on Facebook. I was
Mhm.
posted on like a well-known Bims's Grime on Instagram. They got like 120k. They shared that today. So yeah, like follow us on. We're not just on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. We're on Instagram and Twitter and everything else. So just give us a follow. Yeah, really, really appreciate it, guys. Like I said, when we
it's in the comment section and description. So everybody, the Central Clubs podcast is in the comment section and description of this video. So if you just go into the description, just click the wee arrow with the points down. It'll give you bring you to all the links, all my social medias, and the Central Clubs YouTube channel. Just click that link. It's all titled, and it'll take you straight to the channel, and you can subscribe and you can see all their content. So that's how you get to it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ron. Honestly, I really
Peace, guys.
God bless.
Peace.